Welcome to 21st Sports Recap and Reaction for the Atlanta Falcons at the Carolina Panthers in their Week 14 matchup played December 13th, 2015. We're going to go over the scores and the stats for this NFC South Division rivalry matchup, as the Panthers had already clinched the division last week, and the Falcons were still in the hunt and desperately needing a win to go for a wild card spot, as they were kind of on the outside looking in, but they would not gain any ground. They would actually fall further back as the Panthers just totally dominated this game and start out in the first quarter. As the Panthers scored 21 points in the first quarter, starting off with a 1-yard touchdown run by John Stewart. Graham Gano added the extra point, and it was 7-0, and that was with about 3.5 minutes into the game. Then about the midway point in the first quarter, with less than 7 minutes still left in the first, Cam Newton aired it out for Ted Ginn Jr. for a 74-yard touchdown. Gano added the extra point, and it was 14-0. Then in the closing seconds of the first quarter, Cam Newton hooked up with Ted Ginn Jr. for another touchdown, this one for 46 yards. Graham Gano added the extra point, and it was 21-0. Panthers over the Falcons after one quarter of play. Things quieted down in the second quarter, but with less than half a minute left in the first half, Cam Newton threw his third touchdown of the game, and this one to Ed Dixon, a 4-yard touchdown pass. Graham Gano added the extra point, and it was 28-0 at halftime, as the Panthers just running away with this one. So in the third quarter, Graham Gano would add a 38-yard field goal with about 6 minutes left in the third to make it 31-0. Then with just over 2 minutes still left in the third, Fozzie Whitaker scored on a 16-yard touchdown run, and that made it 38-0 after Graham Gano added the extra point. And that would do it for the scoring in this game, as Cam Newton actually came out the game. They put Derek Anderson in there. It was such a blowout at this point. And actually in the last drive, Cam Newton had been sacked a couple of times, so then they ended up going just strictly run on that possession where Fozzie Whitaker ended up scoring that 16-yard touchdown pass, or a 16-yard touchdown run rather. But in the second half, the Panthers defense, they were already playing exceptionally well in the first half, keeping the Falcons off the scoreboard. But in the second half, they really clamped down. They forced 4 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles in the second half alone. So the Panthers defense really stepping up big time in this game, as well as their offense. Cam Newton continuing to have an MVP season, MVP caliber season. We'll see when it's all said and done, but I don't see how you could vote for anyone but Cam Newton. The way he's been playing, the way the Panthers have been playing, is they've now won 17 straight games going back to last season, as they've won their last 4 last year, and now they've started off this season 13-0, 7-0 at home. The Falcons now fall to 6-7, 3-4 on the road, and their playoff hopes pretty much slipping out of their fingers with this loss, is they've definitely got their work cut out for them, as they're 2 games out of the wild card picture with 3 games left to play. So the Falcons not doing themselves any favors. And Carolina, will they make it through the season undefeated? It sure looks that way. I mean, what they have left? They got to go to New York next week. Then they go to Atlanta to face the Falcons. Of course, they just blew them out here in this game. This is probably the best performance by the Panthers this season. When you consider the shutout, it's their only shutout of the year, and it's their biggest win of the year. And then they finish things off at home against the Bucs. So you got to wonder who's really out of those 3 teams, who has the capability to beat the Panthers. I mean, it won't be easy to go into New York, and it's not going to be easy to go into Atlanta either, even though they just dominated the Falcons. These are division rivalry teams, and it's tough to beat a team twice in a season, especially it's tough to beat them twice in 3 weeks, and that's what they're going to have to do when they go into Atlanta in Week 16. And then finishing up Week 17, at that point, you got to wonder, too, are they going to rest the starters? And then that kind of opens up the possibility for the Bucs to beat them. Of course, that one's in Carolina, so that's going to be a tough game for the Bucs to accomplish that feat. So the Panthers, you got to give them the odds that they very well may likely end up 16-0. That's how it's looking, but only time will tell. Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. But in this game, Cam Newton, 15 for 21, 265 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He also had 4 yards on the ground off of 3 carries. John Stewart, the Green Lantern, 10 carries for 75 yards and a touchdown, averaging 7.5 yards per carry for the Green Lantern. Fozzie Whitaker had 8 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. Mike Tolbert, 6 carries for 17 yards. Tolbert also had 2 catches for 13 yards, giving him 30 total yards on the game. And then Ted Ginn Jr., 2 receptions, and they were both touchdowns, 120 yards off of just 2 receptions for Ted Ginn Jr. And Philly Brown, 3 receptions for 59 yards. Greg Olsen, 3 receptions for 52 yards. Devin Funchess, 3 receptions for 25 yards. And for the Falcons, Matt Ryan, 22 for 34, 224 passing yards, no touchdowns, and an interception. And Renfrey ended up throwing an interception as well, as he ended up coming out of the game, and he was 3 for 7, just 11 yards passing. Devonta Freeman, who at one point looked like he was running away with a rushing title, but in this game, just 12 carries for 40 yards. Tevin Coleman, just 3 carries for 15 yards. Freeman also had 3 catches for 22 yards, giving him 62 total yards on the game. Julio Jones, 7 receptions for 88 yards. Williams had 4 receptions for 40 yards. Roddy White, 4 receptions for 35 yards. Jacob Tamme, 4 receptions for 26 yards. Let me look at the kickers in this game. And Graham Gano, 1 for 1 on the field goals, 5 for 5 on the extra points. He was perfect. The Falcons did not kick the ball at all. No field goal attempts, no extra point attempts. They just were shut down by this Panthers defense. And speaking of that defense, Kawan Short had 2 sacks in this game. Klein had a sack as well. Love had a sack. Addison and Thomas Davis each had a half a sack. Coleman continued to be a ball hawk as he had another interception to his total. Luke Kuechly also had an interception as well. And Short, not only did he have the 2 sacks, he forced 2 fumbles. Davis and Klein each forced a fumble as well. In team stats in this game, 20 first downs for the Panthers, 15 first downs for the Falcons. On 3rd down, the Panthers were 6 for 12, 50%. They went for it once on 4th down, did not convert. The Falcons 4 for 14 on 3rd down, just 28% converted. They went for it 4 times on 4th down, only converting 1 for 25%. Then we look at total net yards in this game, 424 for the Panthers, 230 for the Falcons. They netted almost 200 more yards for Carolina. And on the ground, the Panthers netted almost 3 times as many yards, 142 net rushing yards versus 54 for the Falcons. And through the air, the Panthers netted 282, allowing just 2 sacks for 19 yards. And for the Falcons, 176 net yards, as they let up 5 sacks for 59 yards in this game, as they were just all over Matt Ryan. And then the penalties in this game, both teams 6 penalties, 60 penalty yards against the Panthers, 54 penalty yards against the Falcons. The Falcons fumbled the ball. I fumbled that line. They fumbled the ball. Of course, there was no line. I'm just coming off the top of my head, but they fumbled the ball 4 times. For 2 of which they lost, 2 of which they recovered. The Panthers did not fumble the ball at all. And in the red zone, 3 for 4 for the Panthers, 75%. And the Falcons 0 for 1, 0% in the red zone. They only made 1 trip to the red zone. Of course, they went up turning the ball over on downs. And then time of possession, 31 minutes, 30 seconds, 28 minutes, 30 seconds for the Falcons. So the Panthers just totally dominate in this game. A huge win against a division rival. Of course, this is a home game. Looks like they're going to win out in this, at home and in the season. I don't know how anyone's going to stop them, especially the way their defense is playing. And also, of course, the offense as well. This Cam Newton has been stepping up big time. And you got to remember, they entered the season without their number 1 receiver, Kelvin Benjamin, who went down, and people were saying, I don't know, with how's Cam going to do without Benjamin? well, he'd played already, 3 years without him, but here he is this year. Of course, last year he was his favorite target, but this year, Cam's getting it done any which way he has to. And he's gotten it done on the ground, but in this game he was doing it through the air like we've seen in some other games as well, as he has definitely taken his game to a whole nother level this year, as he's showing that he can be a very prolific passer and get a lot of production out of the passing game just from his skills. I mean, he is amazing. Cam Newton is playing at a very high level right now. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and having a great weekend and enjoying all the sports.